It's a rainy, cold day out there today. I'm just kind of cozying up with my little cup of tea, and I thought, let's do something different. You know, there's been a lot of things on my mind lately, especially when it comes to brand partnerships, collaborations. And I thought, maybe it would be helpful to chit chat about this stuff and give you guys a little bit of insight on how things work, things that I regret that I've done wrong. And hopefully for those of you guys that are just kind of starting out on social media as influencers, it can be a little bit of a guideline and a like learn from my mistakes type of thing as to what to do when you work with brands, how to charge. And I'm constantly learning. I'm not a pro by any means, right? But I just wanted to share my experience, and hopefully it can give you guys some knowledge, some insight, and we'll just do a little bit of a chit chat, like tea time with Yana today. So when I started on YouTube, I had no idea like anything. I didn't know that I could even like properly make money, and now this is really my main source of income. This and the decant shop that I run, like this is what I do for a living, and it is really hard work. So a lot of people do think that, oh, influencers have it easy, like you sit in front of the camera and you talk about your perfumes or your makeup all day, and it may seem that way, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So here are some of the ways that obviously we make money. First, of course, is the obvious, and you guys have all heard about it, is the Google AdSense. I'm going to skip over that because I'm sure you guys have heard other people talk about that. But what it really comes down to is you're going to get sponsorships. Once you hit a certain milestone, a certain following and viewership, brands are going to start taking interest in you, and they're going to want to work with you, collaborate. So the first type, and the most common, especially when you're starting out, is a product in exchange for review. A lot of brands will want to send you their product, be it fragrance related or otherwise. They will send you the product and hope that that's good enough payment, compensation, for you to then take the time and do the plug. And sometimes it is, especially if it's a brand that you do really enjoy. And for me, I'll do this when it's a fragrance brand that I'm familiar with, that I've already tried before, and that I do enjoy, and that coincidentally they've reached out and they want to send me their product for free. A lot of the times what the brands will do is, and this is my favorite approach, this is truly my favorite, it is the most classy, professional way, is, hey, we love your channel, we would love to gift you this product. No obligation. They want to gift you their product for you to experience, and that's what they say in their emails, and there is no strings attached. Sometimes you'll get vultures that are like, we want to send you this, and because we're sending you this, we want you to do a reel and a TikTok and this, and I want you to mention it at least 3 times, and then you're like, sounds like a one-ended deal. Like, and what am I getting out of this? A bottle that I may or may not like that's going to sit on my shelf now, and now I have to deal with potentially decluttering it? Like, no. So those are the ones that I say no to, and it's like, do not be afraid to say no to any brand just because they reached out to you and they try to flatter you. The thing to remember at the end of the day, no matter what, is the party that's contacting you is doing it to benefit themselves. I have a review policy. So when a brand wants to send me a product, and it's not a brand that I'm familiar with and I'm not familiar with their products, I have a written out fragrance review policy that I will send over to them, or I will briefly explain it in a body of an email and say, look, this is how I work. And sometimes they dip out. Like sometimes they're like, they don't want to deal with it. And a lot of the times it'll be like smaller niche brands. I'm not sure if they could even qualify as niche, but like they're kind of sending out a feeler by like sending you an email and telling you, we want this from you. And oh, we're going to send you a bottle of our fragrance that I've never heard about. So yeah, sometimes I can't even find them on Fragrantica. But I do think it's very important, it's professional, and it shows your commitment to your job to have a review policy in place, at least vaguely written out in point form format to use when necessary. So for me, I won't take product in exchange for review if they're trying to tie commitment to that, because like you have to always think about how are you benefiting from this on the person that's performing the promotion for them, because promotion on YouTube and Instagram and anywhere does huge things for the brands. Like it yields a lot of sales for them, maybe not through your direct affiliate links, but just putting the name out there and putting like some level of hype around the brand is hugely rewarding to them and beneficial in terms of the remuneration that they end up receiving. So yeah, just always keep that in mind. You're not, they're not doing you a huge favor by sending you a free fragrance. You're doing a lot more for them than they are for you, in my opinion, in my experience. Next, you will have brands, sometimes boutiques that will have a commission structure. So they will send you products. You can like or dislike them. You're open to review them as you wish. And this is my favorite type of collaboration. I love this because you build a relationship with those boutiques. You get to learn a lot. They'll send you products and they are totally fine with your honest, unfiltered opinion. If they send you a product and you hate it and you say, look, I'm either not going to review it or I'm going to tell the audience that it's bad, they're fine with it. I've never had pushback on that. And you make commission off of your affiliate link. Those codes that you guys use for 15% off, 10% off, whatever, we get a portion of that. It can range anywhere, in my experience, anywhere from 5% to 15%. And yeah, like that's usually what it is. Again, the review policy comes into place for me, so I'll always touch on that. And I will not promote a product that I do not like myself, period. Sometimes it happens that you get a product and you smell it and you're like, I cannot promote this. And that is very rare. Like most of the time when you do a quick research on the brand or the fragrance itself, you can find information enough to figure out whether it's something of interest to you. So always, always, always do research. Like it's gonna take maybe 20-30 minutes, but do the Googling, do your due diligence. Doing your due diligence is the hugest thing in any form of business, including YouTube. It is of like the utmost importance. Is important for you and your own credibility. So one example of a brand that was a huge flop for me, was a pheromone fragrance brand that was offering huge incentives, not only in terms of payment for sponsorship, but in terms of commission as well. And like, again, I'm not going to name names of these brands, but yeah, huge incentives, like almost like you see it and it's too good to be true. But then I received the product in the mail and like that was just a no-go. But that was a new product, one that I'd never heard before, one that I could never find online. So always try to do as much research as possible. And if you think that it may be worth it, take the chance to see how the product goes for you. Like that didn't go anywhere. That was just a dead end. After I received the product, there was no following up on either end. And finally, you're gonna get sponsored videos. So collaborations, sponsorships, and a lot of the times these will be from brands that are not necessarily fragrance related. So you know, I'm sure you guys have seen them and you can think of them on your own, but a lot of the times it will be a brand that's basically trying to place a short commercial, anywhere between 45 seconds to 2 minutes long within your video. They will give guidelines. They will have what's called a brief. So an explanation of what is expected of you that you need to deliver. A lot of the times in those contracts, they will ask that. They have the ability to ask you to edit that video X amount of time. So that is something that is crucial to read over in your contract. I've had to amend that in contracts before because look, you're gonna film, you're gonna spend so much time on this video, and then you give them free reign to decide, oh, we didn't really like this or that. And let's say you've already spent several hours. Your time is money too, right? So you always have to think about how much time something is gonna take you and whether the compensation is worth it. And when a sponsor has free reign to have you edit the video as many times as they want, that's danger. Like that is a red flag danger zone for me that I always amend if I see that it is like too much. Always something to discuss for me. And always read those contracts thoroughly. Make amendments where necessary. It's allowed. Like a contract is a agreement between two parties where both parties are benefiting. That is the definition of a contract. Both parties need to benefit from a legally binding contract. So there has to be something there in exchange for you, and make sure that the remuneration that you're getting is worthwhile to the time that you're investing, because sometimes you don't realize it, and I've made this mistake. You put hours and so much work into something, and then it needs to be revised, and then something else needs to be revised, and then they can send you a new brief, and then you have to start from scratch. It can happen, and that's something to look out for. So again, with these contracts, like I now go through it with a fine-tooth comb, because I have been a little bit burnt in the past. And what happens too, this is a huge thing to look out for. Sometimes they can pay you 45 days after you've released the video, 60 days after you release the video. Mark those days in your calendar and make sure that you are getting paid, in fact, because a lot of the times, guess what? Poof, and you're not getting paid, and you're like, cool, I just put out a video. Will I ever see my money? And sometimes they'll be like, oh, unfortunately, we don't know, there's a delay. And you're like, how long is the delay? We don't know. What are you gonna do, sue them? A deposit for me solidifies the deal as a creator and protects me, in my opinion. And if a brand isn't forthcoming at all and trying to like meet my requirements, then I just walk away. That's just how I've learned to do it based on mistakes made in the past. Another huge thing is to know your rate. This is kind of a gray area, but don't sell yourself short. You know, do the research. There's a lot of information out there online that will help you solidify a rate. And beyond that information, think to yourself, like, just ballpark, okay, how much time will something take you? What is your time worth to you? Like, you have to think, okay, sometimes you have to do a separate filming of whatever it is that you're talking about, and then a voiceover. Like, how much time will that take? How much editing will it take? You have to project that, and you have to know how much time something will take to then estimate like what it costs you. 'Cause sometimes you can get paid a couple $100, but you've put 8 or 9 hours of work into it, and now you're like, that wasn't worth it. So, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's been there. I'd love for you guys to comment down below if you have had a run-in like that. So yeah, it is incredibly important to have a rate. What I do is I created a media kit like from the beginning, and a media kit is like basically your creator's resume. So it'll have your stats, a little blurb about you, your demographics, and your rates. So like your rate card is right there. Like, I'm sure a lot of you guys that are also influencers that are watching this are like, no duh, like it's so obvious. But hey, like, some people don't know, and I'm from an amateur perspective kind of telling you guys my learning journey. So yeah, the media kit was hugely important. I never did that whole thing of where like the blue book or whatever, like there's a site that you pay for that tells you basically what you're worth. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. You know, I figured I'm intelligent enough and like savvy enough to figure out what my time is worth without some blue book telling me what it's worth. I even forget what that site is called, but I just Googled and researched online to see what's the going rate and the range for different types of deliverables. And then I took my, you know, following, my viewership at that point, and gauged it myself. You know, sometimes you can throw a huge number out into the wind and a brand will take it, and you're like, how did that happen? And sometimes you go with a very reasonable number and they'll try to lowball you. And this leads me to my next point: never be afraid to negotiate. You have to see how much the product pertains to your audience and how much it doesn't. And if it's a really far shot from what your audience will be interested in, like, my rates are always higher for those. And if they want to take it, then we can go from there and like continue discussions. If they don't want to take it, perfect. I didn't necessarily want it to begin with. So yeah, that's how I work. I don't want to spam my channel with garbage, because what happens is if you take on too many sponsorships and collabs, like, it muddies the channel in my opinion. And it just looks like, okay, like, what's the difference between this and like watching an infomercial, right? And maybe that's not right, but I always try to leave room for negotiations, because a lot of brands will lowball you so hard, like so hard, and it's absurd. Like, a lot of the times I find these brands think you're dumb because you're an influencer and you're on social media. So that does happen, and it's kind of frustrating. It's important not to take any of this personally. That's another tip that I can give. I feel so weird giving you guys tips, but I really just wanted to chit chat, because through the last few years I've had some run-ins where I was like, I could have done better. Most of the time, personally, I prefer no contract. Like, especially when it comes to fragrance brands, we know each other well enough, and there's enough of a rapport most of the time, whether with brands or with boutiques, that no contract is necessary. Anyway, when sponsorships are done right and it's an ongoing relationship, it's a beautiful thing. I absolutely love collaborating with boutiques. They are my bottom line favorite. There are so many incredible boutiques. I can honestly say I have never had a deal go wrong with working with a boutique. I don't prefer product in exchange for review, again, unless it's a product I'm familiar with, that I know that I enjoy, because at this point for me, I am literally running out of room. So if a brand that I don't know anything about, or a brand with cheaper product or like more dupes want to send me things, I can't do anything with that. It's just gonna be stuck, and then it's a burden for me to declutter it, so I have to think about that. So yeah, unless it's a product that I do truly love and want to wear myself, I will not take product in exchange for review. There are all kinds of PR programs out there. There are all kinds of approaches to collabs, and when they go well, they go very well. And as YouTubers, I think at least half, if not more than half, of the revenue does come from sponsorships. You know, if you're a newer influencer, that may not be the case, but eventually building up, it will become the case, especially like little bits of commission. They really add up at the end. You get a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. A lot of the times people purchase because you can see what they purchase. A lot of the times it won't even be things that you spoke about, but something that they wanted and they used your link, and that's great. Like, everybody wins. They get a discount, you get a commission. Hallelujah, you know. So those for me are my favorite. Anyway, I hope this gave you a little bit of insight as to how things work for me in my world, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.